Hello everybody and welcome back to Horny Toad Garage. Today we're going to be replacing the coolant reservoir tank on a 2015 Ford Transit 150 cargo van. Now this will apply to the V6 gas engine. So if you do not have the V6 gas engine and you have the diesel or the turbocharged version, then this will not apply to you, as the parts are completely different. And the reason I'm making this video today is not because this is really difficult to change, but rather because we have a parts modification. Now on the old one, you will find out in just a little bit that this bigger nipple here is actually smaller, and it looks more similar to this connection here. Now, what happened was Ford found out that it was sort of a faulty design, and so if you just go out and buy this new reservoir without buying the new hose, then what you're going to find out is that when you go to connect your hose to this new fitting, it's not going to fit. So let's get started and I'll show you what I'm talking about. For this job, you're basically going to need a ratchet and a 6-inch and 2-inch extension roughly to just kind of help you get into these spots here. We're going to have an 8mm down here at the bottom, and you're also going to have another 8mm over here, and this 8mm is going to have to be undone. And then another thing you're going to want to do after you do those two 8mm connections that hold on this coolant reservoir, you're going to also want to make sure that you have, if you can, I think it's really good to have a screwdriver here, like a flathead is good. And then basically you could get a pair of pliers like this, or you can get one of these little locking pliers that's useful for these little hose type connections. I kind of had a little bit more luck using these traditional pliers, getting this thing here. This little thing is kind of annoying, this little clamp. It doesn't really want to move out of the way really easily, but while we're sliding off this little clamp thing here, we're going to basically pry with our screwdriver a little bit. We're going to just kind of try and help it along. We're going to try not to damage the hose as we do this, but just using the screwdriver to kind of like push a little bit while we pull with the pliers on this clamp is just going to give us a little bit more help in getting this thing off. Now I suggest before you undo those little 8mm things that you try to take the hose off, because if you undo the 8mm thing, then what is going to be holding this coolant reservoir in place, right? Now just be real patient, because this can be very frustrating trying to get this top hose off. As you can see, I'm really having to work at it here. It's quite tight on there, but if you damage this hose, you're going to have to replace this top hose, and you're not going to want to damage that. Okay, so now that I got that off, I don't have to squeeze anymore. I can just worry about getting that off, and the top nipple is now undone. Now it's a little bit difficult to get a view inside there, but you're gonna have another hose down there, and you're gonna just grab it and squeeze the two little gray tabs that are on the end of the hose, and this hose is gonna pop right off. This new hose, this hose that you pop off right now, just using your hand squeezing it, is the one that is not going to fit your new coolant reservoir. So we're gonna have to replace this little hose, and I'll give you all the part numbers so that you can go get it from the Ford dealership. You'll be able to trace the hose that you just disconnected all the way over here. Luckily, it's not hard to get to. It comes all the way over here. Now, what you're gonna wanna do is just grab that and just squeeze on that. And this side also has the same connection that it had on the other side. We'll just squeeze on the little tabs and pull it. A little difficult. It's frozen on there a little. All right, and we got a little bit of leaking going on, and you can see that it's the same type of connection on both sides for this old hose. We'll go ahead and take that out of the places that it snapped into. We got a few places, and it looks like that old hose broke. So now you can see that this old hose was actually brittle, so it wasn't a bad idea for us to change it out. We'll finish up on our 8mm bolts here that hold it in place. Take that off, set it aside. Okay, somewhere we won't lose it, hopefully. Then we'll do the other one. The other one's loose already. We're gonna lift it up, and now we have a surprise connection. We have this little bolt. We're gonna take that and put it where we won't lose it. We have a little connection here on the bottom. That's why we have these locking little things. These are so useful for making sure that we can get onto the connection properly. We have to twist this and lift it out a little. Once we got our little locking things here on there, we'll be able to take this off pretty easily. We'll line this up and put the circle over the tab and our little U, and we'll just shimmy this down the hose, let go, and now we can pull it off. You can twist this back and forth. All right, and now we've removed the old one. So when you connect the new reservoir in here, what I suggest you do is you don't put the clamp on yet. You just put the hose on here as far as it'll go, and then you can lower the little reservoir into place. And I see that when I do that, the hose will get a little bit twisted. So now I know when I come back up here, I can twist this hose to be, how do you call it? To get it more into place to where I want it to be, so that when I lower this into place, the hose won't be all kinked. Because if you just connect the hose however, and then you put the clamp on, and then you lower it into position, well, now what's going to happen is the hose will kink, and it'll make it more likely to stress out the hose. So I think before you put the clamp on, you should lower it into place and line up the hose to where it's not going to be kinked when it's put in position. And then that way, when you get the hose in the correct area to where you feel like it's not going to kink, then you can go ahead and come in here with your clamps, and then you can raise the clamp into place to hold it into the position that you determine to be optimal for not causing hose kinking. I mean, this is probably the most frustrating part of this whole thing, is getting these little things back into place. Aside from how do you call it, disconnecting that hose from the radiator, which is kind of annoying, this is probably the worst part. Sometimes a little clamp will over compress, and then you're gonna need to go in and do it again, because my clamp, I pressed it too hard and then it got stuck in the open position, the unclamping position. Now it's good. I can pull on here, it's not going anywhere. I can now put my reservoir back in place and bolt it. I got my 8mm bolts here that I didn't lose yet somehow. I can tighten them by hand. After I tighten these 8mm by hand a little bit, I can get my ratchet and then screw it down. I'm not sure if a power ratchet would really hurt anything here or not. You know, clamping stuff too tight on down on plastic could be bad, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Milwaukee 12-volt series of tools. Excellent tool to have if you don't like ratcheting stuff by hand. A 12-volt ratchet can make your life so much easier. if you're regularly wrenching on your car. But here I'm just doing these 8 millimeters, and then we'll go to connecting the new hose, which is going to be super easy. We're going to take our new hose and connect it to the radiator. We'll do that first bolt not all the way tight yet, and we'll go to the second bolt and we'll do the second bolt tight, and then we'll come back to our first bolt and finish tightening that first bolt up. Now this reservoir that I have in the car now is from O'Reilly's, but I also bought one here from my Ford dealership. And one thing that you'll notice with the Ford dealership one here, it's the exact same as the O'Reilly's except for the red cap and everything. And here's a hose that I've bought from the Ford dealership. And basically you'll notice that inside this thing here, there is a little piece of like plastic or like flat spot that keeps this hose from going in all the way. And you'll try to like connect it and you'll be like,
oh my God, bro.
And you'll be like, dang it, why can't I get it in there? Well, the reason why is because this new hose has a flat spot. So because this new hose has a flat spot right here, you have to line up the flat spot with a piece of plastic that's inside here. And I think it's actually a really good design, because basically it means that this hose is gonna be able to be connected like this. It's gonna be able to be connected only when it's oriented upright. So once you orient it, it will clip on in place. You just push it on, and now in order to remove it, you're gonna have to pull on these two things. You're gonna have to squeeze them and then pull this away from the reservoir. So we'll just connect our new hose to our O'Reilly's reservoir. And by the way, if you don't have $130, you can go ahead and get one of these reservoirs on Amazon for like 40 bucks or something like that. And you're probably wondering, well, Ricky, why didn't you buy the less expensive reservoir? Well, at the time I didn't know it existed, and right now I'm really just tired of this. I want this to be over with. So we'll go ahead and connect our new hose on here. We'll just push it up, and once we push it into place, now we can squeeze this clamp into place. And then the only thing we're gonna have to do after that is connect our new hose on the radiator side. So we're almost done here. On the radiator side, we have this hose here, and I think I mentioned earlier that this came off of the little thing. It came off of the little path that it was supposed to follow. Earlier, the hose had broke. I'm gonna just take that connection off really quick that I just connected in front of you guys. I'm gonna put it underneath this old hose that's connected to the coolant reservoir, and I'm gonna route it, because the old hose, it went a certain way, and I'm gonna put it back into the clip that the old hose went into. So that routing is for a reason, right? So we'll use that. We'll put the hose in the old place, and now we just find out where the old hose connected to the radiator, and we'll push it on. We'll hear it snap into place, and we won't be able to pull it off without squeezing it. Now we've removed all of our tools, and the only thing left to do here is add some new coolant. And this is going to take an orange type of Dex Cool coolant. So don't get any of the green, yellow, or any of those ones that say it's used for all vehicles. You don't want to damage it. I always like to just be safe and get the coolant that's made for the vehicle. You can always give your license plate number or your VIN number to your auto parts guys, and they can look it up which one it takes. You got a minimum and a max line on this new reservoir, and for the minimum and maximum line, you want to fill it up to the max. And then one thing that's going to happen is you're going to want to start the vehicle up, and when you start the vehicle up and it cools down later, you may need to come back and top this off, because you're going to have some empty space in your system from where you spilled. Remember that after you fill the coolant to the max line, you're gonna have to let the car settle down and let that coolant go back into the recovery tank from in the pressurized system. So when we let that old hose get disconnected, some of that coolant leaked out, and it's probably gonna replace what empty space there was in there, and now you're gonna have to top it off and add a little bit more coolant till you're back up to the max line. You may even want to burp your coolant system, and if you disconnected your battery before you started working on this, you could go ahead and connect that battery up again so that your car will actually start when you go to drive it the next time. And if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share, and have a great day.